FAVMI presents Unfolding Mental Illness, hosted by Saraswati Suresh.
Unfolding Mental Illness is a podcast series by FAVMI, Family's Voice on Mental Illness, and which is the regional chapter of Face Me India. At FAVMI, through these podcast series, we try to give tools and resources to family carers who are taking care of persons with mental illness and helping their loved ones through guidance, understanding, and such kind of resources which would help them in their road to recovery. I am Saraswati Suresh, the founder of FAVMI and the host for today, and I have my co-host, Dr. Sachin Ganorkar, the founder member and director of FAVMI. Today's topic is a little different from what we have done in the past, and we are trying to get a lived experience of a person who has been grappling with mental illness for the last 17 years. Our topic for today is lived experience with mental illness experience. Our guest for today is a young lady, a very dynamic one also, a social entrepreneur, a mental health advocate, and professionally, she's a neuroscientist. Her last decade has been in the space of healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and life sciences. She has now embarked on this journey of founding Caregivers Connect. This is a peer community group where, using her experience of 17 years that she has been grappling with this chronic mental illness, she wants to bring together such people where they can share, engage, and create a safe environment for them to share their feelings and even be vulnerable at times if required. And that's a beauty of her NGO, which she has founded. In fact, I attended one of her huddles, and I must say, I was quite impressed by it. I loved it, actually. I very, very happy that her goal today is to create a profound imprint on the mental health scenario. And I wish her all the best. Welcome, Dr. Avani Shukla, our guest for today. And it's an absolute privilege to have you on board today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Saraswati ji. It's an honor to be invited for something like this. I have seen your previous episodes of this podcast, and luminaries of this field, mental health in India, have been chosen to give their thoughts and opinions and their experience. So I really think it's a privilege for me to be doing so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to help in any way possible. The lived experience that I have seen has many commonalities with the members of Warriors Connect that I have onboarded onto our community, and also in our own ways there are a lot of uniqueness as well. So if my experience can reach out to someone's heart and help them in any way in their journey, I would be more than happy to do so.
Thank you so much. To start with, Avani, would you like to share about your 17 years of your journey to start with? A little bit in, something in a small way. Yeah.
I can start by talking about it like I would to anyone, anyone who would look at me and not know about mental illness. It would be pretty much similar to what you had said. I have the experience as an educator, as a mental health consultant, a healthcare consultant, a social entrepreneur, PhD in molecular neuroscience. People will pick up all these, hi-fi terms and terminologies and try to tell me that my life is actually very perfect. I'm a high achiever of this nature. However, very, very few people would actually know about the story going on at the backstage, the many interruptions in my professional life, the many pivots that I had to make. All of these things are things that generally people would not see on a resume, not see on LinkedIn. So I'll tell you what happened in the beginning was that my journey with mental illness started when I was in the last year of my school, when I was diagnosed My diagnosis currently is of bipolar disorder.
Okay.
And however, I had some major episodes kind of far apart in the last year of my school, in the middle of my college, but none of that would let me believe that I actually have this mental health condition. I was in complete denial. And because I would always manage to come back to my studies and be able to pass the exams, I went on, and I went, I got a good college. Then I went on to Germany, where I did a master's and I did a PhD. All of that happened. My academic studies went on, but it was not for the lack of trouble. While I was living on my own in Germany for 6 years, I had to handle myself in my own way. And that is when maturity came, maturity happened. I understood that I actually have this condition. I, I went forward and took some better steps of contacting a psychologist over there. I read more about my condition, and that's when I decided to really accept it and tackle it head on. So after my PhD, I came to India. I was working as an assistant professor. Then I jumped to corporate. I was working in very high intensely dynamic startups, doing a lot of work there. But all the time, around 3 4 months, I used to have a breakdown. So I used to
Mm.
have an episode of bipolar disorder, um, regularly, let's say. And we can say there were many triggers, but the point was that I was not completely stable. I used to do very well, and then there were periods of complete dysfunctionality. And I think it was going okay professionally wise, but in the pandemic, when I had some major losses in my family, I decided to actually work in mental health. I decided not to go back to the field that I was in, which was medical content. And in mental health, I saw peer support as a space that had a lot of scope, because there aren't enough support groups in India compared to the number of people who are living with mental illness. Doctors do not refer patients to support groups. I think peer support can be a very major pillar in this circle of care between the psychiatrist, the therapist, the family, and peers who are not family members, but those who have gone through something similar. And because I benefited from peer support and I wanted more of it in my life, that's how Warriors Connect came about, where we select, literally we vet people to come into our community, which is a safe space. And there are literally no bars. We don't hold back. People can discuss anything they want. Of course, it's moderated, but we connect to each other online, offline, through chats, through events, through a repository. And let's see, we are 150 members right now, approximately, and going strong. So I hope this journey continues to build on.
Amazing, amazing. I'm sure it's going to go with more and more members joining you, Avni. I wish you really all the best on that endeavor. So when was your diagnosis? You said you started, the 10th grade of yours. So how was it initially itself? The diagnosis happened, or was it that, uh, there was an up and down, and it was only after some time that you realized that it was bipolar?
Yes, so typically it started first with signs of depression. And
Mhm,
not even that, it was considered to be a very small, trivial thing like exam fear.
mhm,
At the end of my 11th standard, I had some issues of having too much to study, because there were entrance exams and there was school. And then I don't know, something might have changed biochemically in my brain. I don't know. And I was taking a lot of tension. Then I became a very quiet person. And from someone who had topped the school in the board exams in 10th standard, I became someone who could hardly take the final exam of 11th. I did not want to write the paper. I became really quiet. I would not talk. There were some issues in school as well. And basically, my mother could notice that this is not me. This is something very drastically different from my regular self, you know. So actually, my mother has had a history of depression, major depression.
mhm,
So she has had like 2 to 3 episodes of a very different nature. mild and long, let's say, not the kinds that I have, not bipolar disorder, but she could tell something is wrong. And so she took me to the psychiatrist right in the middle of the exams. And at that time, I really was in a daze. Okay, so I was given some antidepressants, and I was told later that the dosage of the antidepressants was so small it was almost like placebo.
Hmm.
And I became actually better during the course of the exams. So then everyone thought, oh, it was just a bit of an exam fear. It's okay. Maybe she can't study so much. So they got me out of the medical, entrance exam preparation. Didn't feel good, but that happened. And then every all medicines were stopped because it was like, oh, little girl had exams, she freaked out. That's what it was seen. But actually the parental pressure at that time was very high. My father wanted me to study for medicine, medical board, medical exam, and I was saying I'm going to fail in my mathematics of school. Sounds like a trivial thing, but back then it was like a very big problem in my life, right?
I can
So
understand.
yeah, but then what happened is I entered a 12th standard and I started having this anxiety and I started having feelings like I'm going to fail. Always the idea was, because of a student, the main thing in my life was exams, the way we are built. And I kept saying, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail. Even though there was no exam, there was no pressure, there was no test. Then they felt that, okay, this is weird. Okay, so then they took me to the doctor again, and then it was diagnosed as depression. And then antidepressants must have been tried, and more medications were being tried. I don't even remember, we don't have the records anymore, but at some point I was having a lot of medicines, like a handful of medicine, like a big cocktail was being given to me. And eventually I had some delusions. It seems, even I can't explain it very well, but I definitely had some kind of paranoid thinking, some delusions. Little bit of gibberish was being spoken, and I didn't realize any of this. I got to know this from my parents after hounding them later, that tell me what happened. My parents were so ashamed of this that they would not talk about it, not amongst themselves, not to me. So for the longest time I didn't even know कि हुआ क्या था उस time पे. So anyway, now I know that there were definitely signs which were beyond depression, and that is when bipolar disorder was diagnosed. But all this while, I hated my psychiatrist. I hated going to his clinic. I always thought that these people have messed up my medication. All that I had was a little bit of depression due to exams, and now they've given me all these different medications which have made me more mad. And whatever I'm experiencing is because of the medicines, not because of me or my brain or whatever. So I just did not admit. And because I was in 12th standard and I was put on tuition classes for every single subject except English, and this is completely unlike me. I used to be a topper, right? But in 12th standard I was not doing well in my exams. So all this thing was being done, and um, I did not go to my psychiatrist. My mother used to make notes of my behavior and take that to the psychiatrist and say, this is the way she's behaving. They used to get blood tests done and take that to the psychiatrist. So this is how my 1 year of diagnosis went. And my 12th standard was terrible because of that. I mean, in the pre-boards exams of 12th, I was getting borderline marks, around failing. But miraculously, I got okay just about 1 month before the actual board exam. And I studied only 1 month, but I studied really well at that time. And I got really good percentage in board exams, and I could enter Delhi University. And what used to happen is, as soon as things become good, then people just want to forget what happened. And it is, just buried somewhere, like it was some deep, dark secret that will never ever be revealed to anybody um, in the world except the most immediate family members. So it became like something that I had gotten over, and I never wanted to think about it. I was just trying to block those memories out of my head. And the medicines were stopped because they felt like I was doing okay. But then it came back in college, and then I felt again during my stay in Germany during PhD, so on and so forth. And when I came back, got married, during my various jobs, I kept having problems. So I have had episodes, you can say, every now and then. They
Mhm.
were spaced far apart in the beginning time of my diagnosis, in the beginning years.
Observed in the mental health scenario, amongst patients,
Hmm.
The first chapter is of the diagnosis, where always, there's an up and down. The second chapter is the denial. So the denial is not only from the patient's end, it's also from the families. And within the families also, I've noticed sometimes the husband accepts and the wife doesn't accept, or the siblings. So there is a lot of chaos in that whole system. And the third is the relapse part of it. So how did the denial from you moved on to acceptance? Because once acceptance is there, I think then you have, moving to take care of yourself, ready to go to the psychiatrist. So how did that change happen from denial to acceptance?
Thing is, in a way, I was lucky that I was taken to a professional right in the very beginning when signs were noticed. And it was because it was running in my family. My Nana ji had also been diagnosed with depression. So it was something that I was aware about, that something happens, but it was still highly stigmatized. My mother had had depression. It was something never to be, told to anybody. So it was always like, maybe she had something, maybe she didn't, but whatever it is, don't tell anyone. So this was the attitude. So when I was diagnosed, the stigma in my family was also so high. Like, sister would my sister would be like, why do you take her to a psychiatrist? Like, psychiatrist was a wrong word at that time. I'm talking about 2006, 2007. Okay. And, just going to a psychiatrist was considered to be like, you've just, fallen in everyone's eyes. So I was feeling like, mere saath aisa nahi ho sakta. I am not like this. I've never had any, medical problem before. I've been a good student, star student, whatever, good in extracurriculars also. So I refused to believe what all was happening. um, my parents could digest the fact that okay, there could be depression, because my mom had had depression and my mom and dad had had a bad time because of that, and I had seen my dad giving her a hard time because of that. So I didn't know many details, but definitely depression was something they knew they could handle. They would hide, but they could handle. But when this delusions and all started happening, then they got really freaked out. They were really, really scared. Then they just couldn't talk about it. They wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't talk to my sister also, I think. They just didn't want to tell anybody because it was such a matter of shame. So at that time, the knowledge was so less. Okay. Then later on, I've heard my father then read books and all and tried to update himself. But my denial was also because of their denial. Okay, they were in the denial that how can our daughter have this problem. Okay, then after it was known, okay, she has depression. Okay, depression can happen. How can she be delusional? How can she have these kind of symptoms? It was like beyond their understanding. And for me, I was convinced that I'm being taken to a psychiatrist who is just giving me hell lot of medications and making me more sick. And so I used to fight. I used to fight with my mother and fight about not going to the psychiatrist. My mother used to force feed me medications at some point. I would not be willing to take them. And so denial was maintained even in college. There was a psychiatrist who came to give a lecture in our college, and it was a fluke. Okay, that he happened to speak about bipolar disorder and the medication that I'm on, lithium and all. He was talking about those things. I did biochemistry in my undergraduate, so it was related to the topic. I just zoned out completely. It was like I don't want to hear the word bipolar disorder. I don't want to hear the word lithium. I was standing in the same place, but I could not recall a single word that was spoken because I wanted to shut that chapter off from my mind. But well, it happened again, and finally, as I said, the acceptance came when I think I became mature in age and a bit more mature about taking care of myself. When I went to Germany in the beginning for my master's, I was the happiest person. I was so happy being independent, doing things myself, grocery shopping, opening the bank account, from everything. I had like so much liberation, freedom, and I had been quite protected because of all these things that had happened. I was not allowed to go outside of Delhi for my undergrad, for example. So I was really happy, like handling things on my own, and I didn't miss anyone. I was not homesick. Okay. So things were okay. But then when the problems started coming, I only had to solve them. And touch wood, the problems were not that intense, because what had happened is my psychiatrist had somehow convinced my parents to put me on long term medications after the second major episode I had had. That was a very major depressive episode. And after that, he says that she should not, take off the medication. So I was on a set dose. I did not have a psychiatrist in Germany all throughout. My psychiatrist was sitting in India. But I used to have distinct periods of feeling very low, not being able to work, not being able to get out of my apartment, not, or even if I go to work, I'm going late at night so that no one can see me, you know. So I would not want to be seen. I would, but still, I had to take care of myself, right? I had to still make some food for myself. I had to still do some of my experiments. I couldn't let everything just fall apart. So I would say I did not have extremely severe depressive episodes in Germany. I would say that I have had worse in India. So it was the level which allowed me to understand that yes, this is a problem. It is not a fluke that is happening. There seems to be a pattern, there seems to be a relapse, and there seems to be that it's not only because I'm getting upset because of something or because I'm sad about something. Psychological triggers weren't actually there at that time. PhD is a very tough thing to do overall. There's a lot of stress during during PhD in general. So if I have a depressive period and then I get over it, and after some time I have another depressive period, the stress has not changed. So I felt this is something that is happening within me again and again. And then I started reading up about it. For the first time, I tried to think, okay, perhaps I really do have this bipolar disorder thing. And then I read about how the patterns can be recurring, and how when I get better from a period of a very low phase, I can be extra productive, which is what used to happen. I used to go and compensate for my lack of absence by overworking also. There was a point where I had become completely nocturnal, if I'm not mistaken. I did not repeat that mistake again. That had happened once. But that was when I actually started taking care of myself, started realizing really there is some issue. I asked people in the lab. Somebody told me that you should go to a psychologist if you have depression. So I went to the university psychologist. She was German but could speak in English. There was a language barrier, but the most important thing she asked me was like, "Are you taking medication?" Uh, and I said, "Yes, somewhat." So the problem was that I was on medication only because I had promised my mom that I will be on medication. And my mom had made me promise this because she told me, if you don't take medication, then that will happen again. So please, okay, you have to take it. But nothing had happened, right? There had been no problems for like, I don't know, 4 years or something. There had been no problem. But I've just been having one pill. So sometimes I would, yeah, man nahi kar raha, like, why do I need it? I don't actually need it. So I used to sometimes skip here and there. And once when I had come for holidays, my mother got the blood test done and showed it to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist says she's not taking it regularly. And then I got one hell of a scolding because of that. Okay, so when I told the psychologist in Germany that somewhat, I don't actually believe in it, so I have it, but I don't have it completely, like religiously. And then that psychologist was like, what is wrong with you? You either you have it or you don't have it. How would you know that it is benefiting you or not? And then because I was a scientist at that time, molecular biologist or whatever, that really struck a bell somewhere in me. And I was like, yeah, I mean, if this was an experiment, what is the test and what is the control? What am I doing? I don't know whether this is helping or not if I don't do it properly. And yeah, from then on I decided I am definitely doing this. I will be compliant no matter what. It's not just a fun thing कि कभी लिया कभी नहीं लिया. ये मन कर रहा है मन नहीं कर रहा है was not a question. And I would not even sleep over at a friend's place. Sometimes I would say my medicine is not there, I have to go back. So I became very very particular about that. And I educated myself about bipolar disorder more. I read more about it. um, I would say a little bit of warning over there. Sometimes people read too much about the wrong stuff also. This happens, and this happened with me as well. It happens with everyone. Once you get obsessed and you start looking at YouTube videos and random people talking about how they've cured their bipolar with XYZ things, people can get influenced. It seems like it's some kind of ray of hope, but it's really wrong. I would say one has to stick to the authentic sources, and it would be best if you actually don't read too much. If you can talk to your doctor, let the doctor guide you, or let the doctor tell you what to read, if at all you really have to. I was a scientist, I was a researcher, so I could not stop myself. I used to read scientific papers, I used to read everything. But that's how I came to know, like, it was biology I was reading. So I was like, yeah, this is just biology. If I have it, I have it. It's maybe some part of it is genetic, some part of it is environmental. There needed to be some stress factor because of which it started. And this is just something that I have to deal with. And then there were moments when I got even more depressed in Germany, and then I could take the call myself and tell my mom or tell somebody that I am more low than before. This is bad. And that's when then I could arrange antidepressants. Okay, this is like a smuggling story, because I didn't have a psychiatrist in Germany, and I could not shift at that time. So my mom smuggled antidepressants to me through a friend. She just sent it to me, and I took it. I used to talk to the psychiatrist on the phone. But yeah, so I had started taking those.
Yeah, but kudos to your family, because knowing that yes, there is something, and still sending to a country, where again language is a barrier. I think I mean, hats off to them, and I think a lot of families should be willing to take that and help. And yes, acceptance makes the difference. Yes,
Right, but I think they believed that I was sorted, because at that time when we had to make that call, uh,
correct.
I was not told to apply to many, like, I did not apply to most foreign schools, only
Hmm,
to this Germany one, because it was exceptionally nice. And, we didn't have to spend much money. It was a stipend. It was like 100% scholarship for
correct.
my tuition and for my living expenses. So I did not spend money. I earned money over there, even during my master's. So that was one exception I made. And I had not gotten in the first go. So I had gotten into all the nice schools in Bangalore, and I was going to go there. I was satisfied. But just like suddenly, 2 days before I had to, pack my bags and go to Bangalore for my master's, uh, this thing came and I was in the wait list. I was the first one on the wait list. So the position opened up for me. And in one weekend, it had to be decided whether I have to go to Germany or Bangalore. So it was a very huge decision to take. But all the college teachers and all, they said that I'm very bright, I'm a good student, I should be sent to Germany. That's where I would learn a lot, I'll be getting a lot of good opportunities. So quite grudgingly, my parents accepted it. But yeah, 1.5 years had gone and I had not shown any symptoms.
So
That's why.
today, how do you understand your triggers, or and you ensure that your family doesn't nudge it? How does it go about now that you know how it works?
Yeah. You can never like completely know, I think.
Ah, okay.
Because new patterns keep coming up, new triggers keep getting found, and there are some times where you just cannot understand what the trigger was, what happened. And
Okay.
in bipolar disorders specifically, one kind of thing where often a relapse happens because there is a trigger of some sort, but
Mm-hmm.
it is not always necessary for there to be a trigger. It can just happen. So episodes can just happen also. It's the
Mm-hmm.
nature of the illness. So for example, if you look at borderline personality disorder, there is always a trigger which does something. So I think my body that way, it is going in waves ever since it has started doing that. What I would say is, of course, there are three types of triggers: psychological, social, and physiological. Okay. Psychological triggers are the most common ones. You were upset about something, you failed at something, some big rejection, something like that. If you get stressed about it, it can be really bad. For some people, it could be a breakup or things like that. For me, for example, that exam stress time was so bad that it precipitated the illness itself. Yeah. And other times I have given much more stressful exams, but no episode has happened. Right. So it's not a complete one-on-one correlation.
Hmm.
So psychologically, if you're feeling bad because of anything, I would also say huge triggers are when there's a huge change in your family structure only, or like a close ones passing away. Like when my father passed away in 2021 due to COVID, all of a sudden, and he was very young and very fit. And my grandfather also, the whole structure of our family changed so much. So huge changes also can trigger things because there's too much new things you have to get adjusted to. So those I would say those are psychological, but sometimes those are not in our hands, right? If someone is passing away or you have to relocate or whatever it is. Then there are triggers which are sociological. That is a lot about taking stress about what your peers are up to. The stress, like, okay, people who are in my class in school have by now, or they have this car and they are buying houses and they are in such a great apartment, and look what my salary is. I did a lot of this. Okay, I did a lot of this because when I was in Germany, I was around the similar folk, research minded folks who were living quite a decent life. And for Germany standards, I was getting good money. Of course, not like as good as corporate, but good enough money that I was earning, I was saving, I was happy, financially speaking. But as soon as I came back to India, I saw that academic salaries and what other people get, like corporate and business people, such a world apart. And I saw that, my God, I used to be the topper. I have amazing, academic credentials, but I'm not even getting those jobs. Forget about getting those salaries. Even if I get a good job, my salary is not as high as another person with the same thing because my previous salary was low as an academician. So all these um, comparisons that, oh, I'm almost becoming 30, that person at 30, oh, if I was 30, I would have done this. It's too much of comparisons that we deal with in daily life. So I took the conscious decisions of stopping to look at my friends on Facebook, stopping, not even opening an account on Instagram, personal ones, because those are people who are not even close friends of yours. They are just folks you knew at some point, and you keep looking at their great lives which aren't even great. They just keep showing that it's great. And no matter how much you tell yourself, no, it doesn't matter to me, it doesn't matter to me. If you keep consuming that 24/7, it will matter, na, somewhere or the other. It will itch. So I have sorted that thing out for myself, that social triggers, I have tried to just say that my life is different. I have literally sat down and thought about what I want from it. And I tell myself, and I really say this iteratively, that it does not matter what the other people are doing, what they're earning, what their family is like. My journey is my journey, and just own it. Okay, so I really do try that, but I'm not some monk, so it doesn't always work 100% of the times. I also, it
It's
pricks me once
a
in a while.
journey. It's a journey. It's a journey. So it'll
Yeah,
happen.
it's a journey, but I don't have those milestones anymore. Like I used to have those milestones. When will I be at the same level as that person? So now I just don't have that. uh
Actually, that understanding itself makes a difference.
yeah. And Baki, I think sociological, I don't know, that is social and psycho. People sometimes feel that, they should be, when we are down and under, when we are unwell, we should go and mingle with people. Okay. Now, well, while that is okay, I think it can only be done when you yourself feel like it, when the people are very, very close to you, or maybe in small groups. What used to happen with me when I was a kid and was feeling horrible, my parents would not let me stay alone at home. So when they would go for a party, they would take me along. And I would feel like hell over there. Because when you are unwell and all people around you are partying, it feels terrible. It feels terrible because you are feeling like shit from inside. And you also have that feeling that everyone's looking at you. Everyone's looking at how bad you're looking. Everyone's looking at how bad you're dressed. People will come and speak to you. You'll have to talk to them. It's really a lot. So when people are not well and they're low or they're anxious, when they are forced to be in a public environment, that pressure itself can be a big trigger. Trigger can be very big. So in the workplace, if your work is suffering and other people's are saying something to you, that's a very big problem. So work performance, especially if you identify yourself as a person who's a good person, who's a good worker, these things really impact you. When friends leave you behind, especially if you've done something in a manner of hypomania or mania or during delusion, you've done something and your friends have deserted you, then you're lonely, and that is a very big trigger. So now I hope that mental health is becoming something that people are talking about more. So ideally, one should be able to tell their friends also, and the friends should not at least desert their folks for that. These are all sociological. And
Family understands these triggers and now how to respond to it. Do they understand with you with time now?
who the
Your family?
um not really.
Okay.
I would say, see, I have to I have to take the onus on that and tell them that no, I will not be okay doing this. This time I can't do this. So, for example, the physiological triggers that I didn't get to is very important that way, because those are invisible to everyone, including the family.
Correct.
So, physiological physiological stress is just that your body is under stress, although it cannot be seen anywhere. But literally, if I've had a cough and cold and there's a viral infection, there are
Mm,
higher chances that I will have a depressive episode after that.
okay.
Even if I've just gone and had a period of very high excitement, like on a holiday or some kind of very high intensity, like a wedding or something, where there's been a lot of activity, the
Correct.
then there is a crash after that. It's the body's way of compensating, and it goes a lot. It can be really, how do I say, uh, exaggerated in our case. Then the
Okay.
menstrual cycle, the time around the period, before the period. People make jokes about the premenstrual syndrome, but for us it can get really, really real, right? And you
Yes.
see that in people who have given birth, the postnatal depression is so high. So the female hormones are always at play, literally. And that is something we just can't do much about, except try and
Correct.
get the hormone sorted otherwise with doctors. So those are problems which I have constantly, and those things nobody can make sense of. No, my family can't do anything about me. The only thing that I want my family to do is to be considerate when I make it very, very clear that I am very unwell, because I will not be able to show up to things. I will not be able to be there for them. And that feels very, very bad. But I am very happy that my family, both sides of my family, like my husband's family and my family, are very supportive in that case. There was a lot of stigma earlier. There was a lot of concern. There was, of course, so, there have been issues in the past. However, um, even though they won't shout about mental health from the top of their lungs and do advocacy, I don't expect them to. I am doing that now. So I try to do that now. I don't expect them to do that. The very fact that they're okay with my absence, they understand and don't pressurize me. They don't ask me 100 questions. If they're told she is unwell, she needs time, she cannot come out of the room, or she's sleeping, she won't be able to attend this and this important thing, I mean, the sky doesn't fall.
I think
So
that's a very important thing, Avani, because
yeah,
that level of understanding amongst family carers today really lack. And,
yeah,
they try to push the person. And I think if that level of understanding we have, and you create that safe and supportive environment, it can do a lot in the, to the persons. Because it's not an easy journey, which, y'all are going through.
yeah.
So I think, yeah, yeah.
A
You
lot
want
of
to
the coping
take
actually,
out?
yeah, I'll do that. It's just
Yeah.
that a lot of the coping actually is about being by yourself, letting the wave wash over you and ride, you have to ride it out sometimes. So giving the person space is actually one of the best things you can do for that person, if
Correct.
cognitively they're
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that we've talked about your triggers and your medications, your relapses and stuff like that, the next chapter which I'd like to talk about is how are you coping with it? Okay. I saw you that day, when we were trying to talk, you even were going out for a walk, and you said, no, I want to go for my walk. And I think all of us today have to maintain a healthy lifestyle. It's not only people with mental illness, but even we have to maintain. But with persons with mental illness, it becomes a little more difficult for them. Motivating themselves to get out of bed and go to the gym, or go for a sport, or whatever little exercises that is required for them. How do you motivate yourself? And what is your, I would say, your healthy lifestyle, the way you are coping with it? What is your mantra to it?
Hmm. I think, yeah, exercise and that kind of changes to lifestyle are very important. But I must say, the one step before that, which is
Okay.
being occupied, having something to do, which you may like a lot, or even dislike a little bit, but some sort of uh, if a routine to your life could help, if you have a structured life, if you have some kind of job or not. But even if you don't, I think having something to pursue, whatever it is, whether it's a hobby, or whether it is office work, or whether it is taking care of the children, whatever it is, I feel that there is one certain motivation that is needed, and that motivation fluctuates, no doubt it fluctuates, but you need something, to get you out of the bed sometimes, more than just that you want to exercise. So I feel that if you are doing some kind of work, if you're occupying yourself in some way, all the rest of the things become easier, including motivating yourself to go to do exercise. Okay. So yeah, if you can find something purposeful to do, everything else, in my view
Awesome.
and in my experience, becomes easier. Then when it comes to being fit, yes, of course, everybody needs it, and we need it a lot. All said and done, this mental health conditions do take a toll, right? They take a physical toll as well. Even the kind of medications that we are on, I mean, I have a neuroscience degree. I know which receptors they are targeting, at least for some of them. And I know how they work. So I know that they are not very specific. If you want them to do role A, they would be doing role B, C, D, E, F also, because they are present all over the brain. So just like normal
Correct.
medicines have side effects and we don't like it, the brain medicines have more side effects, and some of them, of course, we don't like. So decreasing the metabolism, people in general tend to gain weight. There is lethargy that comes with that, which itself makes it so difficult for them to move out. I know all these things because when I was off one of my medications, I was very active, super active. I could wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. and go to the gym, and do all these things, and then go to work at 8 a.m. I cannot even imagine that now. So there are some things you have to deal with, you have to learn to live with. And when I said I was very, very super active, but I was not at all stable, I was not healthy. I was just active and fit that way, but I was not mentally healthy. So I had to make my peace with the fact that yes, I need medicines. I especially need this one, and I need to be regular with it. And even if it has certain side effects of slowing me down, I still have to have it and do everything else possible to compensate for this and try and be as active as possible. So whether it is exercise, it's about just keep trying, and don't try something very bizarre that is extremely tough for you anyway. Don't set unrealistic targets for yourself that suddenly now you're going to start running in the marathon, something like that, when you are hardly walking. So that is why for me it always starts with walks. And when I'm the sort of person who likes to go on a walk daily outside, not in the gym, because being outside also has a positive effect. But when I am low, and it varies how many levels of low we are talking about, my speed becomes lesser, my tendency to not want to go becomes higher. Then I'll only go if someone else is going with me. If my husband says come, let's go, only then I'll go. And if I'm really down and under, I won't even get out of my room. Okay, so this whole thing is there, and little by little, if you think you have even little bit of energy, my therapist says just put on your chappal and just go walk slowly, slowly. You don't have to be, you don't have to run, you don't have to do it brisk. Just start somewhere, or just climb the stairs, maybe up and down. And from there on, of course, everybody already knows all the other options that there are of exercise and gym and dance classes. My best thing that I could say these days is that, although I do these walks every day, I try mostly. Uh, I don't think it's enough anymore for me because I'm gaining weight no matter what. Okay, and I know the one thing that would really help me would be to dance. Okay, dance to something like a Zumba dance workout, Bollywood dance workout, some kind of dance is the only interesting thing. Okay, I've tried yoga, I've tried this, I've tried that, squash. I've tried so many different things. So that's the main thing. You have to keep trying, but nothing ever sticks with me except working, because I genuinely like that feeling. But if you have friends with whom you could go, and by friends I mean company, whether it is family members or neighbors or whoever, if you can go for a sport or something with friends, so make a trip out of it so that you look forward to just meeting your friends. That will be great. I had that once when I was much younger in college, and there was a group for badminton, and I was such good friends with those people that I would play badminton to theek hai, but I would always go because they're there. So if you can have something like this, it would be amazing. Unfortunately, right now I don't have that. So I'm trying to think of other some ways of how to do it, of trying to make Zumba classes somehow approachable for me. Because otherwise I know it's there in that studio, but there's so many obstacles to reach the studio.
Correct.
first, first and foremost. So yeah, if you can find company and do things together, it would be really good. And I
That's really lovely what you said, just make small steps also, just wearing a chappal and walking. And whatever, and creating a purpose for your life or whatever actually you like to do, I think that makes a lot of difference. And
yeah.
small, small steps, I think if you keep continuing to do it, I think it'll be a big win for all of you. Yeah.
I think, at some point we do have to, accept what's going on. And if you have accepted that you have this illness, instead of going down the self pity road, which I know very well because I used to go down that very often, pity party all the time. That is one thing, touch wood, I don't do anymore. It doesn't even come to me naturally anymore to feel sorry for myself all the time. What I mean, of course I feel bad, but I don't feel sorry for myself and start pitying myself
I
indefinitely.
understand from where. Yeah.
Which used to
And I
happen.
think that's a very big statement. That's a very big statement which you're making up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, yeah, it's very tough to just have to look forward and not look back, because
Mm.
most of the times our past has our achievements, and we think our future is completely dark. I used to think like that too. I have a PhD, I've done this, I've done that, and this qualification, that qualification, this award, so on and so forth. Everything in the past, now I'm done for. Now my life is over. It's always like this kind of thinking comes up. It's very, very difficult, but we have to tell ourselves that if we don't know what the future is, it might as well be better than now. What is, if you don't know what it is, it could be better than now also. You don't know that, right? So you don't have to assume that we're just going to spiral downwards only. And if we can just keep ourselves occupied, finding purpose is a very big thing to say. I don't know if I've found it, but at least there should be a pursuit. Keep trying different things, keep thinking, okay, maybe this will work, that will work, and just be okay if many things don't work. At least you've tried, you've kept yourself active, mentally active. And when you want to distract yourself, these are things that I have learned in just the last 3 years. Because sometimes when you're depressed, um, the thing that you need is distraction sometimes. And distraction can be of various sorts. Okay, you can read a book, that is amazing if you can concentrate on a book and read it. Go out with your family, do something. But if you go into watching Netflix and TV and movies constantly, which I have done a lot, I've done that a lot in 2021. um, it feels good while you're watching, and as soon as you stop watching, then you feel depressed again, or you feel miserable again. You're okay when you have transported yourself into someone else's life, but as soon as it is a
Mm.
reminder that your life hasn't changed, you're back where it started from.
Yes, ma'am.
So now, with great effort, I had become seriously addicted to Korean dramas. I'm not
Oh,
even kidding.
drama.
This was an actual addiction. So then I have weaned myself away from that finally, and now I only tend to obsess on things like puzzles and all that, because with my therapist and also, what we understood is that if I really do have to distract myself with something inane, you just have to do something, and not
Mm.
focus on all the bad things in your life. You have to do something, right? And when you don't know what to
Oh,
do, now I pick up a puzzle. I have apps and all in my phone which will prompt me crosswords and these kind of things, to improve my mind. I have to learn chess, which I haven't started, but these are the type of things. Now my husband says I'm obsessed on that also. I'm obsessed with now I've gotten obsessed with word games.
you
Problem.
won't believe it. I start my day with things like that. I start
Ah,
my day with Wordle and spelling bee and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
crossword. I start my tea and then I'm doing that. But that's my, it's my space and I really love it. So
Yeah.
I think it's how you look at it. Yeah. One last question, Avni, before we wind up,
Yeah.
is that you are now interacting through your groups with a lot of family caregivers, okay? And I'm sure they are talking about it, the way they're engaging with it. Is there something you would really, what would you like to talk about it, and, end this podcast also with a few words? Is there something you'd like to tell them, or, something that which really starts pricking you, ki, why are they talking like that, or some good things? It could be a combination, it could be anything. And we and a few last words.
Of course. Um, I want to say thank you, like a big thank you to all of you, like many, many hugs as well, because what you manage is just amazing. Along with your own lives, there's a lot of other things that you have to take into account for and take care of, and it requires like immense amount of um, courage, I would say. I mean, we are given the situation that we are in, like we have to deal with it, but it takes courage for you to take onus about that and help in every possible way and deal with all kinds of behaviors. I remember how difficult I have been, how quote unquote crazy I have been, and how much this can affect others. But in those moments, at that time, we're just not ourselves. We don't even think about the other person, unfortunately. But I mean, I think if there were no caregivers, I think most of us wouldn't survive, I guess. So, of course, we have a lot to thank you for. And one or two things that I might want to say, but I would say only I am saying this from my um, experience and from my perspective. It can be very different for different people depending upon what their illness is, how severe it is, and so on.
Absolutely.
uh, that one thing that I said about giving space, uh, if somehow you could sit with your loved one and figure out with very, very um, transparent language how to know whether that person needs space or needs support in that moment. So are there any signs or telltales, or because even that person probably may not have thought about it, because all this is like on us, right? We don't think which possible way can my caregiver help me. We don't have this in our minds, but you can try and do that. I think it would be good for both, especially adults. After all, I know we are having mental illness and all that, but if we are adults, ultimately we have to take care of ourselves, and that is something to accept. Your parent will never stay all the time with you. um, Your spouse could, but then still, but everybody would prefer that you get more and more independent, and take more onus, right? So that thing about how to give space. And the second thing, please have your own lives. I mean, I can't mince my words here. See, I mean, I think sometimes caregiving duties, they take over everything, right? You don't have any time for, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just how misfortunate the situation may be, that caregiving is just consuming you, right? But this really should not happen. I mean, whatever it takes, do take out time for yourself, do things for yourself, be selfish at some point. And it's very, very important, and I'm not even saying it just for your sake. I mean, you know that yes, it is important, you need breaks. If you have someone else, maybe you can divide time, manage it somehow or the other, right? Trust the person maybe once in a while to stay on their own, and have a camera or something to monitor. I don't know. So you could, baby cams and all are there. So I think little by little, you have to take some daring steps also at times, perhaps. But the reason I'm saying have your lives, do other things, is also because I'm on this other end, right? I know that when I am very unwell, and for example, my husband is taking care of me, he's stopped his work, he's not going to office. If so much has been changed because of me, and I can see that people's lives are being affected by me. And if friends are wanting to meet, suppose there was a plan to meet friends, he's not going because I'm not well, and then it feels bad, it feels really bad that you're pulling someone else also down with you. Then it becomes a matter of guilt, and that guilt stays even when you get better. It basically cycles down to the fact that, oh, I am so bad, that because of me everybody else is so much affected, so much inconvenienced. This just has a cyclical effect, I think. So if my husband could say, okay, you've been unwell for a few days and I also need a breath of fresh air, so I'm going to go for this thing, I would be actually happier if he would do that. So I don't know if this is making sense. And also it sets the wrong precedent, you know what I mean? Like, if every time the caregiver is there for you, no matter what, they're always there for you, then what will happen when they're not there for you, right? So I think some distance is important. And if a person has always seen that, okay, when this happens to me, the whole household completely transforms and caters to me. So that thing, no,
So
if that can change, if that person becomes, if that instance or that kind of behavior of the person becomes something which is messy to deal with, yes, but it is not completely disrupting the entire family at that moment. If something like that can be done, it would be amazing. So that, हाँ, प्रॉब्लम हो रही है, प्रॉब्लम को टैकल करना है, बट प्रॉब्लम इतनी बड़ी भी नहीं हो रही है कि सबका ध्यान सारा उसी में होना चाहिए.
yes, absolutely. In fact, I think you ended up so beautifully, that creating a safe and supportive environment, but that doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself. You go and also lead your life. So I think you summed it up so beautifully. And Avni, a big hug to you. Seriously, being able to come and share your journey is not an easy task. And you are doing it. And hats off to you, darling. It's you are, you're giving and you're an inspiration to so many other people to come out and talk, and also to other people to able to understand what you are going through. So a big, big thank you for agreeing to do this podcast and being able to talk about it also.
Yeah,
Thank you so
my
much.
pleasure, my pleasure.
And
Thank you.
I pray for your good health always. Please take care of yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you.